I never thought attending Pacific Coast Comic Convention would turn into a legal nightmare for anyone, but Karen had a special talent for creating chaos wherever she went. Let me back up. My name is Alex, and I have been working in entertainment law for 15 years, specializing in convention management and intellectual property rights. I also happen to sit on the board of directors for several major convention centers along the West Coast. But in my neighborhood, I was just another resident trying to survive under the iron fist of our HOA president, Karen Whitmore. Karen had made my life miserable for 3 years. It started small. A warning about my trash cans being visible from the street at 3:05 p.m. on collection day. A formal complaint because my holiday lights were the wrong shade of white. Then she fined me $200 because a delivery truck parked in front of my house for 7 minutes, which apparently violated some obscure bylaw about commercial vehicles. I paid the fines, adjusted my behavior, and tried to fly under her radar. But Karen was not the type to let anyone simply exist peacefully. The breaking point came when she declared that my home office violated HOA regulations. You see, I occasionally met with clients at my house, which Karen decided constituted running a business from a residential property. Never mind that half the neighborhood worked from home. Never mind that I had maybe 2 in-person meetings per month. Karen wanted me gone, and she had latched onto this as her weapon of choice. She threatened daily fines of $500 until I ceased all business activities. I tried reasoning with her. I showed her the covenant language that clearly allowed home offices. I even got a lawyer to send her a letter. Nothing worked. Karen thrived on the conflict. Hey everyone, if you are enjoying this story of epic revenge, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to Karen Eat World for more tales of entitled nightmares getting exactly what they deserve. Trust me, you will not want to miss how this unfolds. Now, back to the story. Then came the weekend of Pacific Coast Comic Convention, the largest pop culture event in our region. Over 80,000 attendees descend on the convention center every year. I had been attending for over a decade, first as a fan, then professionally as I built relationships with convention organizers, entertainment companies, and venue managers. This year, I was actually consulting for the convention on some licensing agreements. It was a working weekend, but I always made time to walk the floor and appreciate the incredible creativity on display. Saturday afternoon, I was reviewing contracts in one of the convention center's business offices when my phone exploded with messages from my assistant. Emergency. Karen is on the main floor causing a scene. Security is involved. You need to get down here. I practically ran to the exhibition hall, my mind racing through possibilities. How did Karen even know I was here? Why would she come to a comic convention? The scene I encountered was surreal even by convention standards. Karen stood near Artist Alley, her face purple with rage, screaming at 2 young women in elaborate cosplay. One was dressed as a character from a popular video game, her costume featuring armor pieces and yes, some exposed midriff. The other wore a stunning recreation of a comic book superhero suit, form-fitting but no more revealing than what you would see at any beach. Both costumes were incredibly well crafted, clearly representing hundreds of hours of work. Karen was absolutely losing her mind. This is disgusting. You are practically naked. There are children here. This is indecent exposure. I am calling the police. She had her phone out, already dialing. The 2 cosplayers looked mortified, trying to explain that their costumes were convention appropriate and that they had not violated any rules. A small crowd had gathered, most people filming on their phones. Convention security had arrived but seemed unsure how to handle a screaming middle-aged woman who was not actually a credentialed attendee causing problems with people who were following all the rules. I pushed through the crowd. Karen, what are you doing here? She whirled on me, her eyes wild. I knew you would be at this den of degeneracy. I followed you this morning because I suspected you were conducting illegal business activities. And look at this place. It is full of women prostituting themselves in these obscene outfits. Someone needs to maintain decency standards. My blood ran cold. She had followed me. She had stalked me to a convention in a completely different city, over 40 miles from our neighborhood, just to continue her harassment. And now she was attacking innocent people who were simply enjoying their hobby. Karen, these women are not breaking any laws. Cosplay is a legitimate art form and a major part of convention culture. You need to leave them alone. I kept my voice calm and professional, very aware that dozens of phones were recording every word. I will not leave them alone. I am calling 911 right now to report this indecency. These women are clearly violating public decency laws. She actually completed the call. I watched in disbelief as she reported to the emergency dispatcher that there were women in states of undress at the convention center, engaging in what she called lewd behavior. She gave the address and demanded immediate police response. Security finally intervened, trying to escort Karen away from the cosplayers, but she resisted, demanding to speak to whoever was in charge. That would be me, at least partially. As a consulting board member with the convention center management, I had certain authority over convention operations. I identified myself to security and requested they detain Karen until police arrived, since she had now filed a false police report and was causing a significant disturbance. You cannot detain me. I know my rights. These women are the criminals, not me. Karen shrieked as security firmly but professionally guided her to a holding area. The two cosplayers were shaken but safe. I assured them they had done nothing wrong and that the convention stood behind them completely. Other cosplayers in the area formed a supportive circle around them, offering encouragement. The community was rallying, and I felt a surge of pride in how these fans took care of each other. The police arrived within 10 minutes. I met them personally and provided a full account. Multiple witnesses corroborated that Karen had harassed the cosplayers, filed a false emergency report, and had admitted to following me from our neighborhood, which constituted stalking. The officers reviewed the phone videos that attendees eagerly provided. The footage was damning. Karen screaming obscenities at young women who were clearly doing nothing wrong. Karen resisting security. Karen admitting she had followed me. When the officers approached Karen to question her, she made everything exponentially worse. She demanded they arrest the cosplayers immediately. When they explained that no laws had been broken and that she had filed a false report, she became belligerent. She accused the officers of being complicit in moral corruption. She tried to push past them to get back to the convention floor, presumably to continue her crusade. That was when they arrested her for filing a false police report, disorderly conduct, and resisting officers. Watching Karen being placed in handcuffs while screaming about her rights and demanding lawyers was satisfying, but I knew this was just the beginning. She had crossed a line that I could not ignore. Following me was stalking. Harassing innocent people at a convention where I had professional responsibilities was beyond the pale. And doing it all while claiming to represent standards and decency, all while being the most indecent person in the building? That required a response. I spent the rest of the weekend consulting with my attorneys. Not just any attorneys, but the senior partners at one of the most prestigious entertainment and civil litigation firms on the West Coast. People I had worked with for years on high-stakes cases involving millions of dollars. We discussed restraining orders, stalking charges, harassment suits, and defamation claims. But as we talked, a more comprehensive solution emerged. You see, Karen had made a critical error. By following me to the convention and causing a scene, she had created a public record of harassment that extended beyond our HOA dispute. She had targeted people under my professional protection at an event where I had authority. And most importantly, she had been arrested and charged with crimes, all captured on video that had already gone viral online. Multiple news outlets had picked up the story. #Karen at Comic-Con was trending. The footage of her being arrested had been viewed millions of times. Monday morning, I filed a comprehensive civil suit against Karen personally. Stalking, harassment, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and interference with my business relationships. The two cosplayers, with my encouragement and legal support, filed their own suit for harassment and defamation, as Karen had publicly called them prostitutes. The convention center, at my recommendation as a board member, filed for a permanent restraining order banning Karen from all properties they managed, which included not just our convention center but 4 others across 3 states. But here is where my connections and resources really came into play. I contacted the production companies I had worked with over the years. Major studios, streaming services, and publishers who valued their relationships with the convention community. I provided them with the video evidence of Karen's behavior and explained how she had attacked people celebrating their intellectual properties. Within 48 hours, 12 different companies had issued statements condemning harassment at conventions, and several had shared the video footage with commentary supporting the cosplay community. The viral nature of the incident meant that Karen's face was now internationally recognizable as the embodiment of entitled harassment. News segments featured legal experts explaining how she had broken multiple laws. Convention communities across the world shared the footage as an example of unacceptable behavior. Her name and face became synonymous with everything wrong with entitled busybodies who attack people for their hobbies and self-expression. Then I turned my attention to the HOA situation. I called an emergency meeting of all homeowners in our neighborhood, which was my right as a resident being fined by the HOA. I presented documentation of Karen's escalating harassment against me, culminating in her stalking me to another city. I showed the arrest footage. I explained the pending criminal charges. And then I presented a motion to immediately remove her as HOA president and to vote on dissolving several of her more ridiculous rules, including the one she had invented about home offices. The vote was not even close. Karen was removed as president by a vote of 43-2. The only votes in her favor came from her and her equally unpleasant husband. The home office rule was dissolved. In fact, we dissolved about 20 of Karen's pet regulations that had been making everyone's lives miserable. People stood up during the meeting and shared their own stories of her harassment. It was like a dam breaking. For years, people had been afraid to speak up because Karen wielded the HOA rules like weapons. Now, with her authority gone and her reputation destroyed, everyone felt safe to finally tell the truth. But I was not finished. Using my legal connections, I ensured that the criminal prosecution against Karen moved forward aggressively. The district attorney's office, seeing the viral footage and recognizing the public interest in the case, assigned a senior prosecutor. Karen's public defender was overwhelmed. The evidence was ironclad. Multiple videos from multiple angles showing her harassing innocent people, filing a false police report, resisting security and police, and admitting to stalking. The prosecutor offered a plea deal. Guilty plea to filing a false report and disorderly conduct. 6 months probation, mandatory anger management classes, community service, and permanent restraining orders keeping her away from me, the 2 cosplayers, and all convention center properties in the state. Karen, incredibly, rejected the deal. She insisted on going to trial, convinced that a jury would see things her way. The trial was a disaster for her. The prosecution played the videos. They called the cosplayers as witnesses, who testified tearfully about how Karen's attack had made them feel unsafe pursuing their hobby. They called me, and I calmly explained how Karen had stalked me and interfered with my professional responsibilities. They called convention security, who testified about her belligerent behavior. They called the police officers, who described her resistance and continued aggression even after arrest. Karen's defense was essentially that she was trying to protect public decency and that everyone else was wrong. Her attorney tried to argue that she had a right to express her opinions. The judge was not having it. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge, clearly fed up with Karen's complete lack of remorse, went beyond the original plea deal. 9 months in jail, 2 years probation after release, 500 hours of community service, mandatory psychological counseling, and permanent restraining orders that now extended to any convention, comic book store, or similar venue in the entire state. Karen's face as the sentence was read was a portrait of absolute shock. She had been so convinced of her righteousness, so certain that her crusade against indecency would be vindicated, that she literally could not process what was happening. Her mouth opened and closed silently. Her husband, sitting in the gallery, put his head in his hands. The bailiff had to repeat the instruction for her to stand 3 times before she responded. As they led her away to begin her jail sentence, Karen finally seemed to understand the full magnitude of what her petty harassment had cost her. She was now a convicted criminal with a viral video showing her at her absolute worst. She had lost her position of power in the HOA. She was banned from conventions and similar venues statewide. She faced financial ruin from the civil suits, which were proceeding regardless of the criminal conviction. Her reputation was destroyed not just locally but internationally thanks to the internet. All because she could not let people enjoy a convention in peace. All because she had to follow me and harass innocent women whose costumes she found objectionable. All because she escalated a petty neighborhood dispute into a multi-state criminal harassment campaign. The moment of realization on her face, standing in that courtroom as the reality crashed down around her, was the exact moment she understood that her need for control had destroyed her life completely. If you loved seeing Karen get exactly what she deserved, make sure you have liked this video and subscribed to Karen Eat World. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another story of entitled people facing epic justice. Drop a comment and let me know what you think should have happened to Karen. Should her sentence have been longer? Let me know below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next story.